I've looked at the budgeting. It's going to cost 80 million rand to get Joburg's traffic lights up and running.
So we're going to call this 30 Minutes with Helen.
But I remember he literally one day locked his door and never came back.
What people don't realize is that
my first interview was the middle of winter at 6 a.m.
Your pain points, do something about it.
I often say you don't have to like him. You don't have to even like the DA. You just have to love Joburg. And you just have to believe in Joburg.
What do you want them to know about you that makes you able to tell them, I can get this done?
You know, the difference between me and a Rottweiler is that the Rottweiler eventually gets going. It's just a backlog of maintenance that is 3 times the annual budget. It's more than 200 billion rand. Every vote counts. You have 2 votes in a local government election. The ward vote is counted twice. So you effectively have 3 votes.
I've noticed your energy shift since you start talking about politics. What drives you to do this? This is a hard role. This is not an easy role.
I realized when I was very young that if we didn't get the architecture, the political architecture of this country right, we could never succeed as a complex plural democracy. Law and order in public spaces. I want people to be able to enjoy public spaces.
Vision for Johannesburg?
In 5 years' time, I want
Welcome to the Corner Office, where we bring you the latest news from the world of commercial real estate, the greatest voices in the industry, and the corporate chats you've been missing. Let's get to it.
Okay, Helen, I know everyone's dying to see you, so we're going to call this 30 Minutes with Helen. We're going to try and get as many questions in as possible and really try and understand what your vision is and talk a little bit about your run for mayor, which is quite exciting. So let's start with, what does the mayor do? When I went to go and look at it, it said the mayor is the CEO of the municipality.
That's right.
Yeah. So you're going to get in charge of this municipality, but it's a bit different to being the CEO of a company where you kind of make the decision and then that's pretty much what's going to happen. Here, you're going to be the CEO of a company, but it's almost a democracy where everyone gets to vote whether they think that's the right way to go or not. How does that work?
Ironically, not really.
Okay.
The council has a vote on crucial issues. The council votes for the mayor, obviously, and for the speaker, and for the deputy mayor. So those are votes you have to win. The council also has to vote when you alienate property or when you pass budgets. And there's some key appointments at a very senior level that the council votes on. But at local government level, huge power is concentrated in the executive mayor's hands. And all of that power can or may not be delegated to members of the mayoral committee or elsewhere. And that is what makes the system of delegations in a municipality so important. But I don't think there's another sphere of government in South Africa where the chief executive authority, that is the executive mayor, has so much power as in local government.
That's interesting. Because you look at these different governments or the municipalities, etc., and they have very different feelings. It's almost as though they are different companies, as you know, similar to what you're describing now. And you know, you've almost got to come in and instill a set of values. How do you see your first 100 days? You walk in, you say, I'm the new CEO, I'm the mayor. What does your first 100 days look like?
Well, my first 100 days will follow this year of research. So I'm doing an enormous amount of research this year to understand what has gone wrong in Johannesburg, to understand why it went wrong, and then to understand how we fix it in the shortest possible time within the resource envelope available, which is very, very limited. Now, we won't be able to do that on our own as a city. There's going to have to be many, many partners in that particular enterprise. But I will go in with some very clear understanding of the situation, and then we will look at some quick wins. You can still get some quick wins, but the real thing is getting the systems to work, the processes to work. For example, the billing system has to work, and that's not a 100-day venture. They haven't even got a computerized billing system that works properly in the city of Johannesburg. And I think that's deliberate because it's much easier to be corrupt if You don't have a systematized billing system,
Yes.
which is password protected and where you can track transactions. So I think much of the inefficiency is actually deliberate. The more I'm working on finding why it's so chaotic, I find that chaos is deliberate when you've got nefarious agendas. I'm not saying for a moment that everybody in Joburg is corrupt, but I'm saying enough of them are to make it appropriate to call it syndicated corruption. This is not opportunistic corruption by individuals in various places. It's syndicated corruption.
Describe to me the average Johannesburger. What does the average Johannesburger want? You know, I hear a lot of people talking and saying, you know, the average South African is actually fairly conservative. They just want delivery. What is the average Johannesburger, and why do you think you have a good chance at being appointed as mayor as opposed to the status quo remaining?
Well, unfortunately, I've got to be elected.
Yes.
Fortunately,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
that's going to be a big election campaign. And we are a democracy, so it's fortunately I have to be elected.
Yep.
That's a big battle. I am a great believer in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if you've got warmth and water and shelter and electricity and a toilet that flushes, then you start worrying about what the park looks like. And you start worrying more and more. And when the park's fixed up and the roads are fixed up, then you're looking for things higher up the scale. So, of course, human beings are never satisfied. They're always striving to the next level. And that's why we make progress. It's a good characteristic of human beings. But too many people in Joburg have not had water for considerable periods of time. And when you haven't had water for a long time, and the water truck may or may not come, as the case may be, you just say, I need a government that will give me water, clean water that I can cook with, that I can drink, that I can bath my children in. So that becomes a huge crisis. If your toilet can't flush anymore, you can't believe what a crisis that becomes. And the outages of electricity, even though Eskom is generating at the moment, is still a problem for very many people in Joburg. The roads with the potholes everywhere is a serious issue for most people in Joburg. The public open spaces that are strewn with litter, overgrown, the non-implementation of the bylaws, where there's chaos in places where there should be order, and the lack of safety in public open spaces is a very, very serious issue. And of course, all that put together means that the unemployment rate goes up and up and up. And when you haven't got a job, that really becomes your first priority.
You talk about some of the low-hanging fruits here, some of the quick wins that in those first 100 days, let's call it 300 days, like you said, there's not some of these are not easily solved. What are those? Where do you start? You know, because I was speaking to someone from the Cape Town municipality, and they were saying, you know what, we didn't start with the biggest project. We started with the easiest projects, something that people could see us do something and say, you know what, you're doing something. Where do you start?
Well, when I became mayor of Cape Town, we took that city over from the ANC in 2006. We started painting white lines on the road. They were all so faded, and we didn't have as many potholes as we now have in Johannesburg, not nearly as many.
Well, not in Rosebank and Sandton at the moment with the G20. So
G20 roads are perfect.
we've got perfect road lines now as well.
It should be quite encouraging, because if they can fix the G20 routes, it should be possible to fix the rest of Joburg. Let's look at the bright side of things.
Exactly.
But we painted lines on the roads. We made sure there weren't any traffic lights that were out. And we cleaned up the place, cut the verges. And everyone uses the road. So suddenly they looked around and said, oh, it's not overgrown here anymore. They've done something. And we cut the verges. And we paint the lines and we fix the traffic lights. Now, in Joburg, when you're driving along a very rutted road, I came across one that looked like a sinkhole today, literally a sinkhole. The white lines aren't as important as fixing the sinkhole, because soon you're going to disappear in it, and your car is going to disappear in it, let alone your child who might be walking past. So the hierarchy of needs comes back in again. The cheapest and quickest fix may well be the traffic lights. Now, the number of traffic lights that have been out in Joburg when I've driven around the city, long before I even announced that I was planning to run for mayor, It was quite shocking. I couldn't believe. I mean, I once went, I think, from the airport all the way to Randburg, and I think there must have been 2 or 3 working traffic lights the whole way. And people then don't stop, and then they just kind of run the light, and they're looking around, and it's accident waiting to happen. So I was shocked by that. But I've looked at the budgeting. It's going to cost 80 million rand to get Joburg's traffic lights up and running. 80 million rand for you and me is extraordinarily large amount of money. But in the greater scheme of things, it isn't, because Johannesburg's got a backlog of maintenance, just a backlog of maintenance that is 3 times the annual budget.
Sure.
It's more than 200 billion rand.
Wow. How do you get this money in? Where are you going to find this money? I'd imagine that you need to get the buy-in of the stakeholders, being the property owners, and But how do you get them to play with you? Can you get them to do more than is their fair share? Are they just going to pay their rates, or do you want to build a relationship with them? Do they want to get involved? Do you see the privates getting involved in the mission that you want to bring here?
Well, before people are going to pay with any eagerness, we have to get the billing system right. I think paying your rates and service charges in Johannesburg is a grudge purchase. If your city is working really well, then you'll pay your way. Although in Cape Town, a lot of people complain because of the level of their rates bill, which is obviously related to the value of their property.
Yeah.
And with the escalation of property values in Cape Town,
You become a victim of your own success. Yeah.
and people don't like that. But you see, in Cape Town, we're planning for 2050. And we're looking at where all the underground pipes are going to have to go for that, where the city's going to grow, where the extensions are going to be, where we're going to put the investment. And for the next 3 years, we're going to put in 40 billion rand into infrastructure development, new. If you come into Johannesburg, you've got to go back to 2000, the year 2000, and start fixing all the things that were never fixed for all this time, and let alone plan for the future and start investing in the future. And you've got a budget, but it's never a funded budget because you never raise enough rates and service charges to cover the budget. But you'll never do that until you get your billing system fixed.
Okay, so billing system's number 1 on your list.
Well, billing system is one of the number ones on my list. I mean, there are quite a few.
Yeah.
But billing system is very high up. Now, the billing system is in chaos, I think, deliberately, because the billing system and the debtors book is where a lot of the corruption happens. And there are many bespoke systems, billing software systems that can be used. But they need to do this, they can track whoever makes an entry, and those who are allowed to make entries have individual passwords, so entry is password protected, so that you can follow every move, every change on the system and see who did it. And that's what people don't want.
I was in Dubai recently, and in order to get I think it was Shamil Yusuf come out recently and said RICA is a problem in South Africa. We've been basically hijacked from a RICA point of view. Get your mobile number, but anyone can get a mobile number. In Dubai, you need your fingerprint. Your fingerprint gets you, and everyone's digitally fingerprinted, your fingerprint gets you your mobile number. And it's a similar thing almost. You want someone's fingerprint. Almost you need, because passwords can be shared, it just becomes a whole system. But what I'm fascinated in is that there's not a national system that everyone has to use. One system.
Yeah, there should be a national integrated billing system, and there should actually be rational rates that are applied in different cities depending on their circumstances.
Yeah.
But you can't have a one-size-fits-all because, some cities are planning for 2050 and others haven't got to 2000 yet. So there are different needs. But I completely agree with biometric systems as quickly as we can get them.
Yeah.
And we've got to have systems where people cannot jippo the system and cannot, for example, start claiming massive debts from companies that don't owe anything and then get a huge kickback on the side, or massively inflate water or electricity charges, and then tell people it'll go away if you just pay me 70,000 rand, and all of that sort of thing can't happen.
I see there's been some big moves in the Department of Home Affairs now to modernize that system.
Yes,
you know,
indeed.
so that would certainly start us on more of a biometric system, so we can get
Absolutely. A digital ID is
Yes.
what Leon Schreiber is working towards.
Yes. How far away is that? Is it a reality in the next couple of years? Or
Oh, definitely a reality in the next couple of years. No, he's beavering away at that, and
so that helps your cause.
it helps everybody's cause.
Yeah.
It helps everybody's cause. We need to make sure that things are digitized, that there are oversight mechanisms, that there are functioning forensic investigations, and that there's no place to hide with corruption.
3 biggest challenges?
Can I give you 5?
Okay, thank you. 3 biggest challenges, 5 biggest challenges. Maybe let's split it up. 2.5 challenges to get elected, and 2.5 challenges once you're elected.
Well, the biggest challenge to getting elected is to have potential DA supporters taking this election very seriously and understanding that they have to register in order to be able to vote. And if they miss the registration, they won't be able to vote. Then the second major one is to bring them out on election day. You'll be amazed how many DA voters don't vote on election day, especially in a local government election, because they mistakenly think, well, my ward councillor is going to get elected anyway, or my ward councillor hasn't got a chance, so there's no point in my wasting my vote. What they don't understand is that every vote counts. You have 2 votes in a local government election, not 1. You have 2 votes in a local government election. And the ward vote is counted twice. So you effectively have 3 votes in a local government election. So your vote makes a hell of a difference, an incredible difference. Now, if there was only a 48% poll turnout in the last election, I've calculated that if we could just have put that a little bit higher, to let's say 65%, we would have got 35 more seats. And that's often the difference between winning and losing.
And does that, what do those seats actually mean fundamentally for you?
Well, when I'm talking about seats, I mean positions in the council. Now, there are 270 seats in the council, and if you want a majority, you have to have 136. That's 50% plus 1. 135 is half of 270, plus 1 is 136. So you have to have 136 seats if you want to be able to elect the mayor, if you want to be able to elect the speaker, if you want to be able to pass a budget, if you want to be able to approve an IDP, if you want to do property transactions. That's what you need. And ideally, that's what we want to get, because then you govern on your own. If you fall lower than that, you have to put together these very complex coalitions. And then we're into the politics of extortion and bribery, which is what we don't want. So the biggest 2 things that I would like all prospective DA supporters to do is make sure they're registered, because you can only vote at the voting station where you are registered. It's no good moving from Benoni to Rosebank and saying, oh, no, I'm on the voters' roll. I've always been on the voters' roll. And you'll rock up at a station here in Rosebank, and they'll say, sorry, you registered in Benoni. And then you say, oh, no, I'm not going to fag out to go out to Benoni and vote never. So it is really important for people to do that. And it's very simple to find out if you are registered. You send your ID number by SMS, not WhatsApp, by SMS to a particular number, which I wish I had here, but I haven't got it at the moment. And they will tell you where and whether you are registered in a flash.
Yeah.
And if you're not registered where you want to vote, then you've got to re-register. And you do that online, and it happens instantly.
I've noticed your energy shift since you start talking about politics, and not necessarily politics, but the voting and the building the seats and the structuring of getting people behind you and getting that momentum. What what drives you here? You started as a journalist originally and pushed you into the sort of more political field, obviously in your field of journalism, went into the more political field. But what drives you to do this? This is a hard role. This is not an easy role. It's hard.
Well, I've never looked for easy in my life, that's for sure. I've
Why not?
never looked for easy.
Yeah.
I can't do easy.
Yeah.
I can't do relaxing. But in fact, I was in politics long before I went into journalism. I became a young progressive of the Progressive Party when Helen Zille was the only MP that we had in Parliament. And I worked very, very hard in the 1974 election. It was my first election I was fully involved with. But, next year I will have been involved in politics for 60 years. So that's, not a small time. But I realized when I was very young that if we didn't get the political architecture of this country right, we could never succeed as a complex plural democracy. And I've been working on that project ever since.
It's a different situation that we have in South Africa, that just a different setup in that you have so much power vested in the mayoral committee and the municipalities, and then you have your national government. It's kind of everyone has their own space and allows the people of that region to actually get what they really want at the end of the day. What do the Joburgers want?
Joburgers want a city that works, all of them. And without a city that works, you're going to get no investment. And without investment, you're not going to get growth and jobs. So what Joburgers want, many of them, is a job and reliable basic services. The two are very interconnected because no company is going to invest if they don't have reliable water, reliable sewage, reliable electricity, and if they can't use the roads to transport their products. And if we don't get more investment, we're not going to get more jobs. Now, the interesting thing to know is that business in South Africa is sitting on 2 trillion rand, which is kind of dormant capital. 2 trillion, that's a lot of money.
A lot of money.
And Joburg is still South Africa's richest city. It's still the economic powerhouse of South Africa. And a lot of that 2 trillion would come right here if Joburg were investable. And if that money were to come here, you can imagine the new businesses that would start, the new jobs that would be created. So what Joburgers want is economic security, which they can only get if the city works.
Yeah. Vision for Johannesburg? If you have a successful run, you get elected, what do you see for Johannesburg in 5 years' time?
In 5 years' time, I want to get 5 things right. Reliable, clean water, reliable power, electricity, fix the roads, potholes, traffic lights, street lights, verges, those roads, things to do with roads. Then I want law and order in public spaces. I want people to be able to enjoy public spaces, which is what they're meant to be used for. And there's complete disregard of the bylaws of the city now everywhere. So we need to have law and order in our public spaces. And the last one that I'm passionate about is all the tiny little business nodes, from Soweto to the north of Johannesburg, all over there.
Alex, yeah.
Well, Alex is a state on its own. It is in such a ghastly state, So I drove through Alex the other day. That is going to take a very special and very different type of project. And it's very important to get that kind of project. But Alex is, or definitely the part I drove through, is a different kettle of fish. But all over, from Randburg to Soweto to everywhere, even in some places in Orange Farm, there are these little business nodes which are fantastic and that they create jobs and they should become real hives of economic activity. They should be clean, they should be functional. Some of them are really going to the dogs. I went to Randburg the other day and I was really shocked at what it looks like now. And that kills jobs. And the number one thing actually is to get jobs. So at the end of 5 years, if we're further along that path And if investors see Joburg as investable again, and if some of that 2 trillion is loosened up to drive the economy forward and get people jobs, because there are services that work, that's my vision.
Have you met Gerald Olitsky?
Yes.
Have you?
I have met him, yes. I sat next to him at an event, and he's one of those great entrepreneurs that I've got a lot of time for, because he goes where no one else wants to go, and then he makes magic.
He's done exactly what you say.
Yeah.
You know, if you go right into the middle of Johannesburg City, Gandhi Square, you can peep, you know, we walked there. We walked from one end to the other. He takes you on a tour. Yeah, he makes you, you know, you go on a walk from his offices down to the other end, and you feel totally safe, you know. And the amazing thing is the energy that people walk around there with. People are happy. They're just happy, and it's light.
Gerald Olitsky is the kind of entrepreneur we really want in South Africa. He's a guy that says downtown Joburg is an absolute disaster. I love the city. I've made money in my life. I want to use it to resurrect that city, not as a kind of charitable gesture. He knows how much potential there is for business in an unlocked Johannesburg. But he sees the vision where everyone else is running away.
Yeah.
And he goes in and he invests and he does it. He's just the kind of person we need in Joburg.
Yeah. Could be really, really amazing. If you can get the rest of the city like that, incredible. What an incredible place to be. The vision for Johannesburg, I love. I mean, I live in Johannesburg. It's a fantastic city. You know, I arrived just sort of around 2010 after having lived here when I was younger. And that 2010 sort of period, I talked to you about the flag I think we need to get that. That must be number 6 on your list, the flag.
The World Cup flag.
The World Cup flag. You know, it's just, it's like people say broken window, broken home. You know, you just like make the flag look good. You know, people are arriving, visitors are arriving and looking at it. And it was just such a golden time for Johannesburg. And I really think it can get back there. What are the numbers? What is the budget for Johannesburg?
The budget for Johannesburg is about 90 billion, but they don't fund the budget. They get in about 82 billion. The budget for backlog maintenance is about 250 billion rand. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that's a number.
And it's going to take time to fix that. And we won't be able to do it on our own. We're going to need public-private partnerships. And we're going to have to welcome the President's initiative to help us do that. And we're going to have to eat that elephant one bite at a time. So that's a huge number. The other worrying number is that the employment figures in the city of Johannesburg have grown more than 100% in real terms since 2011 till the early 2020s. And that doesn't mean to say, the budget for them has grown, over 100% in real terms. And the numbers of people and the duplications of functions, it is really, really, really worrying, because I think it's become an employment bureau for the ANC. And I don't think that they use the fit for purpose principle to employ people. And so I think there are many, many passengers on that train. So corruption is also systematized. It's also syndicated. Corruption is syndicated with outside companies, with the ANC in government and the ANC in business and the ANC as a party. There are a lot of kickbacks. We have to get rid of that corruption. And a lot of money will be saved for the purposes for which it was needed and used. So it's going to be a whole of society effort,
Last message for everyone, given that our listeners are very much the largest ratepayers across the country, the big listed property funds, et cetera, what do you want them to know about you that makes you able to tell them, I can get this done?
Well, what they need to know about me is that I persevere. I persevere through thick and thin, whatever it takes. The difference between me and a Rottweiler is that the Rottweiler eventually lets go. You know that joke. Anyway, that's me. And one thing I do have is perseverance in spades. And if I can't solve it this way, I'll come around that way, I'll go up that way, I'll go underneath, but I'll do which way it takes to fix it. I can build teams well. I'm good at diagnosing problems and then getting through to the solutions. But that's not the issue. Don't believe in me, believe in Joburg. Lots of people don't like me at all, and that's fine. I often say you don't have to like me. You don't have to even like the DA, you just have to love Joburg. And you just have to believe in Joburg to be able to get this done. Joburg is fixable. If all the people who really love this city roll up their sleeves and get it done. And everyone can be an Elitsky in their own space. They really can. And we can work together with ratepayers associations. They are really fantastic and doing a lot of stuff already. Community organizations, community police forums, neighborhood watches. They're just extraordinary, can-do problem solvers in Johannesburg. I always say it's a city that's got social capital. And you only build real social capital under stress. Cape Town hasn't got that social capital because the local government works. Joburg has got that social capital because people work together, because the government is often failing to work. But don't ever think you can do it without the government. That's a very fallacious conclusion that people reach. You can't fix the billing system through the Ratepayers Association. You can't fix the underground pipes all over Johannesburg through a Ratepayers Association. You can't fix endemic corruption through the Ratepayers Association. You can't get a whole system of copper cabling fixed through a Ratepayers Association. They need us just as much as we need them. This has to be a partnership. So my last message is believe in Joburg. Let's get this done.
Amazing. Thanks, Helen. It's been brilliant and really insightful. Really appreciate your time. And yeah, thanks for coming. Now we're going to throw you out to the rest of them. And there are probably going to be a bunch more questions. But yeah, thank you so much.
Great. Thanks very much.